So, a new term, Baruch Hashem. So what we will be doing this man in Mitz Hashem is taking some of the concepts that you've been learning in the Smicha program, in Yeridea, and applying them, seeing how they apply in domestic settings at home, but also to give you some insight in modern commercial food production as well. Okay, because that's also very important. So we're going to start off with something you learnt in Pei Zayin. You got it the first seif that you have here, and the topic is going to be, to start with, we're going to segue into cheese production and all the various issues surrounding different types of cheese. Sorry?
It's new to me.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Fine. You didn't do it. Okay, fine. Beseder, no problem. And we'll go into the Cholav Stam controversy, the different opinions, and also the reality on the ground in factories, in dairies, and what is actually happening, so you get a sense, and it spills over into many, many different areas. So we'll start with this. So we start with our first Maramokim. Here is the Mechaba in Pei Zayin Seif Yud Aleph. Sorry, I forgot to say one word, and that a very important word is the word that is really going to be the sugya, which is Ma'amid, Davar Hama'amid. An item which is used, literally, Ma'amid means to, if we translate it, literally means to make something stand up, to coagulate, to set, to be used as a chemical catalyst to solidify and make something. You'll see, enzymes will come into it, okay? But that's the word Davar Hama'amid. Now, everybody quotes, people say, Davar Hama'amid, afilu be'elef lo bottle. There's no such Gemara per se. There is, the Makor is a Mishnah and a Gemara that taught in Avodah Zarah that talks about the reason of that Chazal forbade Gvinas Akum. Now the truth is 7 different reasons are given there, and that's in the Sugya, and we'll come back to that at some point. That's a fascinating subtopic. But Chazal forbade Gvinas Akum out of a concern that the Jew would make the cheese coagulate, be ma'amid, with the keva of a nevela. The keva is the 4th stomach, the abomasum, to give it its technical term, the keva of a nevela. And that's why one of the 7 reasons, as we said, sorry?
The stomach of the
as you will know, you didn't do tray first.
No.
There are 4 stomachs.
Okay.
Yes? Okay, if you didn't do tray first, you'd see it. But one of them is called the keva, which is the 4th and final stomach. In Latin, the technical term is the abomasum. It's called the keva. It's part of the stomach. The cows have 4, yeah? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fine. So the way that the cheese was made, and we're going to go into this soon, because this is going to be our topic for the next few sessions, Davar Hama'amid, something which is used as an enzyme, as a catalyst to coagulate, to make something achieve the chemical properties that you want it to do. So what did they do? And we'll talk about cheese production soon, but I don't want to focus, don't want to run into there. I want to go to start off here, do it properly in order. So the Mishnah and the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Daf Chav Tes, and the Gemara in Daf Lamed Hey in Avodah Zarah says that one of the 7 actually reasons why Chazal forbade Gvinas Akum is because the standard way, to this day by the way, the standard way of producing cheese broadly, we're going to see there's 2 types of cheese production, but one of the ways, the standard way was to take a little bit of the stomach of a cow, of a nevela, and put it into milk, and that would act to separate the different component parts and to turn it to curdle and to turn into cheese. Okay? Rennet, exactly, rennet.
Lab.
And that's still, wie sagen wir das auf Deutsch?
Lab.
Lab, mit einem R oder Lab?
Lab.
Lab.
B.
Mit einem B. Ein B? Okay, fine. So now that's the Makor. So our sugi is going to be Davar Hama'amid in its various forms, which is very, very relevant in modern food production and in stuff that comes into your homes. So that's the background.
Really,
let's learn. Sorry?
Really anything that is necessary to maintain or to form the product, right?
But it has to be Ma'amid. In other words, it acts as a catalyst to achieve the desired molecular or chemical properties that you want it to become a solid, etc.
Yeah.
There's something else called avidah l'tama. Let's not get too sidetracked. So, let's learn this seif. Seif Yud Aleph. Im Hama'amid, you've learned this. Well, you've learned this already. Im Hama'amid gvina ba'or kevas ksheira. So, what would be if you took kosher rennet? In other words, an animal was shechted, a kosher animal. You took a little bit of the stomach and you threw it into milk to make cheese. Whoa, slow down. What do I have here? I have milk and I have meat. Is that okay? Now, maybe the first thing you would say to me is, okay, there is lach, maybe not be lach belach, but there is liquid here, there is milk. It could be for more than 24 hours, possibly you may have an issue of kovush, perhaps. So it's min b'sheina minoi. What's min b'sheina minoi in Basar B'chalav?
It's bottle b'shishim.
Bottle b'shishim. Oh, says the Shulchan Aruch. Im yesh ba ta'am basar asura ve'im lav muteres. So tam, we go zil basar. We look at the tam. Does it have the tam of basar? If you can taste the basar, then you can't. Then, in other words, is the shishim or not? Basically, is the shishim? If there isn't shishim, it's mutter. Question for you: what do you notice about?
There is shishim, but you taste it, it's still awesome.
Well, but that's not going to happen because generally speaking, unless it's a Davar Charuf, they will not be tam. Generally speaking, forget kfeila, forget any of that. Just keep it simple. Shishim, which is tam.
Yeah.
What do you notice about the language?
No, it does not say specify it's like a tchila b'diavad.
Oh, pardon?
Well, it's tchila b'diavad.
Read it again, my friend.
So Hama'amid. It sounds like b'diavad.
Absolutely b'diavad. It's totally b'diavad. You did it. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't do that. Hello, newsflash. You can't mix basar b'chalav in v'atla nisel lechatchila. But you did it. So if there isn't shishim, if it's also, and if there's shishim, it's mutter.
I remember reading this a year ago, more than a year ago, and be like, from this, how do we begin? How do we at all get to a point to make cheese at all?
Oh, right? Very good. We're going to discuss that. That is where I was leading you up. Thank you. That's exactly the question I wanted. So, how on earth? Does that mean a Jew can never eat cheese? Really? Is that what's going on? Okay, let's go on. Fine. Aval Hama'amid ba'or kevas nevela utreifa. Says the Mechaber, that's if you did it with an or keva, the rennet of a kosher animal. But because then your concern is basar b'chalav. But if it was a treifa animal, a nevela, then oiser b'kol shehu. Then even if it's 1 part in 5,000, it is still osir. Why? Says the Ramah. Haga mishum de davar ha'osur be'atzmai uma'amid afilu be'elef lo batel. This is the halacha of davar hama'amid. Something, but there's a t'nai. We're going to give 4 because there are 4 exceptions. The first condition you need to fulfill for it to be considered a ma'amid, which is not batel even be'elef, is it needs to be intrinsically osur. Mm-hmm. Not that it has absorbed blios of something which is osur. And this is important for factories and for other things as we'll get to. But it needs to be nevela. So basar b'chalav, we'll explain how the Ran understands the difference. But first let's get this clear. So look here, Chof Aleph, Im Hama'amid Gvina, Mishnah in Chulin, Daf Kuf Tezayin. You see the Beragoyla on the side? That's very, you've always got to, when you learn a Mechaber, if you're doing it like an Amoritz, like I am, instead of having gone through the Torah Beis Yosef and the Sugyas, then you want to know what's going on over here. So, the halacha of the Mechaber, Im Hama'amid Gvina, says the Mishnah in Chulin, Kuf Tezayin, you've got the Rambam and the Ran, and the Rashba, the Rabbeinu Yerucham, the Mo, etc. Fine. That's the first, right? Then we get to, but if you were mamid with a keva of behema kshera.
Is this
but
a Friedman edition?
Sorry, yes, it is.
Oh, they have this nice.
Yeah. Aval says the Mechaber, but if you're mamid with a kevas nevela, then it's also b'kol shehu. Go to the base, chof base on the side, Rashba, Ran, and that's because it's osur machmas atzmai. therefore it remains also. You can leave aside the rest of that. Fine. Says the Ramah. The Ramah explains because it's Ma'amid. Because Davar also ba'atzmai Ma'amid afilu be'elef lo bottle. Says now the Ramah, however, adds a very important point here. There is a limitation. 1 minute, just give me a second. This was where was it? Says the Ramah. It comes from the mashmos of the Madcha. Says the Ramah. Morning. Chodesh. V'dav kesheloi haya sham ma'amid acher rak ha'isur. This is only when is it considered to be a ma'amid? That's if all you have, this one ingredient. And here we come to another sugya, which we might spend a little bit of time on. But, very good. Aval im haya sham gamkein ma'amid heta. If there was also a ma'amid of heta, then you have the sugya of zev zegorim, which is not so simple. We'll see what the parameters of that is. But then it's zev zegorim, and it will be mutter if there is shishim neged the issa and the fine. And we'll see the shach in a minute. Sorry?
I understand nothing of that.
Zev zegorim means that if there are two ingredients which we're using as a catalyst to be ma'amid, one of them is mutter and one of them is asur, then under certain circumstances, we'll see a limitation from the shach in a minute, that this halacha that we've just explained, the davar hama'amid, which if it is intrinsically asur, not because of blias, but it's asur machmas atzmai, that it is davar is afilu be'elef lo bottle, that's only if it effects this chemical change on its own. If, however, there is another element here which is in itself mutter, then that's called zev zegorim, and with certain limitations, as we'll see in the shach, it could be mutter. But we're not up to there yet. Let's do the shach, lamed hey. Says the shach, to explain the Ramah, why there is a difference between nevela and basa b'chalav, says the shach lamatei, aval hama'amid ba'or kevas nevela, hachiluk b'zeh kosu ha'poiskim, this is the Ran mainly, but other Rishonim as well, da'or kevas ksheira me'achar shehu muter b'fnei atzmoi v'les be'isur ela mishum chibure ela magvina. If you look at the rennet, the stomach of the kosher animal, it's kosher, it's a davar hamutter, it's totally mutter. It only becomes asur at the point that it mixes and gives ta'am, or receives ta'am, from cholov. Because that is the isser of basa b'cholov, is isser of ta'am. That's what it is. So at this point in time, it's mutter. And therefore, kol zman there is no ta'am, if there's more than shishim, then it's mutter. At least b'diavad, okay, but at least if it happens, it is mutter. Ela, hai ba'apekoi, v'hai ba'apekoi. Each one stands on its own if it is below the threshold of bittul. Aval oir nevelu ki yotze b'isha also me'atzmoi. Kiven shehu ma'amid, and here these are key words. These are the words to underline. Onuroyin ki'ilu ha'isur be'en. We view it as if the isur is be'en. We view it as if the isur is be'en. Now, the truth is, we're going to see that there is a yeshiva shechakira in the Achronim as to how to understand the lomdus of Ma'amid, and it may sound very lomdish, but we're going to see how Rav Shechter and the OU and others use it in practice in certain cases of cheese production, which we're going to come to. It's not so. I'm going to hold that for a moment. We'll come back to it maybe still today. The lomdus is always very important. The understanding of it. Because this is why the understanding of the lomdus behind the halachic principles can make huge differences. But this line is very significant. It comes from a Gemara. It's royin ki'ilu ha'isur be'en. We view it. Remember those words. We'll come back to it. Be'en. It's there. It's there.
As if there was mamash.
It's there. Be'en. It's be'en. Is the opposite of be'en is blias usually. Yeah, in the yeshivish world we pronounce it be'en. It's always pronounced be'en. You're technically right if you're a grammatical pedant. You probably should call it ba'ayin, but you should probably also call it suffix faker. Nobody does. Yeah, you're right. Technically, you're right. You're right. Yeah, but the way it's referred to is be'en.
My tavusa says suffix.
Yeah, fine. Yeah. So be'en is usually as opposed to, or mamosha sometimes it'll be called be'en as opposed to blias. Just to be clear. Right? Substance. So it's there. Fine. So this is the Nakuda. that Ma'amid, we see it as if the Issa is Be'en. Royin Issa Kilo Issa Be'en, which is kind of a Lashon Gemara, and we'll come back to that. Fine. Marshal we will leave out. So this is our first, the first time in Shulchan Aruch that we come across. Not true, Aruch Chaim comes first. I should have done it in order. We'll come back to it.
Just an understanding question. Like, we're saying that if it is an Issa Nevela or something similar, then we view, even if the Ma'amid is assumed because of Liot? No. There's 2 points. Go back to the Ramah. Maybe you missed the Ramah. Hagar. Davar ha'asur be'atzmai. So it has to be intrinsically asur, not as a result of blias. I understand, but what's the chidush?
What do you mean? What's the chiddush? We're introducing the Ramah is introducing a halacha, which is davar hama'amid. Even if it's in 1,000, there's no tam. There's no tam. That's the chiddush. The chiddush is there's no tam. It's 1 in 2,000. There's no tam at all. I used a teeny amount. I can give you the statistics. I've got them here of how much rennet one would use. Let's say it's 1 in 2,000. That's the chiddush. Davar hama'amid afilu be'elef lebato.
So the difference in basa v'chalav in that case is that it's
basa v'chalav. The difference is as follows. Let me make it clearer. Nevela is asur. I have a piece of rennet here from a pig, or what doesn't matter, or from the stomach. Okay, it's nevela.
Because it says here about all nevela.
I didn't read that. No. I was talking. I left that out.
I was confused because it says all nevela. That's how I understood that if the stomach is nevela.
No. So there is there again. So you came in kind of in the middle a bit. So there's there is. We started off by we're contrasting the oir kevas kshera. You have a kosher animal, you take a bit from its stomach and put it in milk. There, as a Ma'amid, that's
the rennet itself.
Exactly. So there, it's only a question of the rennet is kosher. You can eat the rennet. It's kosher. Beef jerky, call it whatever you like. I don't care. But then you put it into milk as a catalyst, or do you take from a nevela? So it's a davar ha'asur be'atzmai. That is a davar Ma'amid afilu be'elef lebato. Of course, it's because of Tam Ke'ika. Vada. Only because Tam Ke'ika. We hold now. Here's an interesting question. Let's lead on from Gabi's Lomdus. The whole basis of this is Tam Ke'ika. But it's more than Tam Ke'ika, because if it's Tam Ke'ika, then but there's no Tam. It's 1 in 1,000. So there is no Tam. There is no Tam.
It's not Tam Ke'ika.
So there is no Tam for Davar. So here's a question for you. I wasn't going to go into the Lumdus this early, but it's okay. I'm happy. I'm happy that you're engaged and pushing me. Just come in the beginning. But here's a question. Serious, very, very important. This halacha of Davar Hama'amid, we're going to see, comes up 3 times in Shulchan Aruch. Is it Deirais or Drabanan? This concept of Davar Hama'amid afilu be'elef lebato. Because? I like it. Somebody's listening. Okay. So most
like din davar chashuv lebato.
So most achronim hold. I'll give you one. Turn over the page to the Mishpat Zahav. I'm sorry I didn't highlight it in the things I probably should have done. Go 2, 4, 6 lines up. From the bottom. Ki Ma'amid kaimalon dahava derabonon. You see it? Highlight it, underline it. Beginning of the line, Ma'amid.
8 lines from the line.
Sorry. Okay, Ma'amid kaimalon derabonon. So that's the Prima Godim, and that seems to be the consensus of the Achronim. It may be relevant at some point later. Just file that away from memory. Okay? One more point before we move on to the next source very quickly, and that is as follows. I'm not sure whether somebody mentioned it. Zev Zegorim, which we're going to shelve for the moment. We're going to do 5 or 6 sessions, I think, on Davar Hama'amid, because I'm going to take you deep into the cheese production industry, so you have an understanding. I'm going to do cottage cheese and all this sort of stuff, so an understanding of that, because it's really important. We'll do a bit of cholav akum and the realities and the Ramosh and all that, but with the commercial production to understand what actually happens on the ground. We'll come to that. But then we get to in the sugya of Zev Zegora. Is that okay? Is that
very okay?
Yeah, that's what.
I just said Shechianu.
Okay, good, Baruch Hashem. So I've really been researching this. So I did it also partly for my own edification. I must admit, I discovered a lot of stuff that I did not know about this, and I find it absolutely fascinating. I hope you will too. But, so this is what we do. I want to take it from the sources to the Lemaisa. One more point quickly, the Shach here in Lamed Vav, when he's talking about Zev Zegorim, just let's do the beginning of Shach Lamed Vav. I think somebody mentioned it. Nira, says the Shach, Nira de davke k'she'ein ha'isur yochel lahamid levadoi b'lo yaheta. It's not enough for Zev Zegorim just to say, oh, I have a kosher component and a treifa component, so I'm okay. No, says the Shach, that's not enough. What you have to have is that the isur on its own couldn't have done it.
It's tough.
It's kind of thing. Again, file that away. It's going to be relevant in a commercial case a bit later, right? Halav hachi osur. It has to be. It's not just the presence of two ingredients, so I can immediately apply zev zegorim. Not at all. It needs to be that the issa couldn't have done it on its own. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that the heta had to have been able to do it on its own? Probably not. But we'll come back to that. Okay. Although, if you go down to the bottom of the Shach, he said, then he brings a raya from the Modcha, we're not going to go into it. Okay, you know what, let's leave that, let's move on to our next point. Our next source here is in Hilchos Pesach. Second page, next page, is Hilchos Pesach. Okay? Simon Tov Mem Beis Seif Hey. Says the Mechaber, Sheichar she'oisim michitim usa'oirim chayovim levaroi. Beer that is made from chita and sa'ira, you have to get rid of it. You've got to get rid of it. You cannot own it on Pesach. V'chein im Hama'amid gvinois b'chalo misheichar sa'oirim oichitim chayav levarom. Similarly, if you used as an enzyme, as a catalyst, instead of rennet, or together with rennet, we'll see, you used challah, yeast, misheichar sa'oirim, which came from the barley beer, chayav levarom, then that cheese, you have to get rid of that cheese also on Pesach. You can't own that cheese. That's it. Let's see.
He basically says the Hama'amid.
That's right. That's right. This is the second time it comes up in Shulchan Aruch. So here you have it. You're being ma'amid gvinois with a chometz. The ma'amid is a chometz element. Then we treat all the cheeses, even though it's a tiny amount. Here we also have another indication, another iteration of this concept, that Davar Hama'amid afilu be'elef le'botol, and therefore you may not own this on Pesach. You have to sell it, you have to get rid of it. Chayav levarom. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Chafei. We can do Chaf Daled quickly. Chayavim levaroi, just to get it clear, because what you said. V'oiver, Mishnah Berurah Chaf Daled, you have it? Zog the Mishnah Berurah, v'oiver Mishnah Bal Yeroem loy bi'aroi, you over Bal Yeroem. V'gam yesh boikoreis b'shtiyosay me'ikah kazayis, if you have a kazayis b'tech b'gdei achilas pras, so v'kaimelon yesh b'tam ke'ikah, etc. Fine. Chafei, let's go to Mishnah Berurah Chafei. Im Hama'amid, you ma'amid this gevina with yeast. The catalyst is from byproduct of beer. Afilu yesh b'hagvinois shishim neged achala. Even though chalo is with an aleph, not with a hey, yeah, there's no chalos, the yeast. Even if you have a shishim, loy bottle hachala. The Davar Hama'amid afilu be'elef loy bottle. This is it. V'loy oit. Not only that, says the Mishnah Berurah. Who's this? Mem Magen Avram b'shem Ramban v'shar chroinim. V'loy oit. Shekol Davar Hama'amid harehu choshuv ki'ilu hu be'en mamash. Where have we heard that before? Not only that, it's not just that Davar Hama'amid and Afilu be'elef is bottle, but more. He says the Mishnah Berurah, I'll tell you a bigger chiddush. And we need to understand, we need to ask ourselves, what is this bigger chiddush? What more can you tell me? What bigger chiddush can you tell me that 1 in 5,000 is not bottle? He says, I'll tell you something more. Interesting. What's this something more? V'loyoid, not only this. Shekol Davar Hama'amid hu choshev ki'ilu hu be'en mamash. Where have we heard that language before? In the Shach. In the Shach we saw before. Yeah, that it's as if it's there. What does that mean? Ulefichach, says the Mishnah Brura, therefore, meidvash, shakurin mead. In English we call it mead. It's in German also mead? Okay.
Mead.
So ulefichach, mead. Okay, yeah. Okay, you doesn't know what that is. Okay.
It's like a Viking string.
Honey wine.
Do they honey? Yeah. Not glühwein. It's ulefichach meidvash, shakurin mead. Shehechmitzu b'shimrei dvash. Shebishel kol hashana. You had shmorim. Shmorim are the dregs. The I think the technical word is the lees, L-E-S. But it means the shmorim is the bits at the bottom, the bits that sink to the bottom. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you used those as a catalyst. How did you make your mead? You machmitz it by using the shmorim of honey, which cooked all year. Udvash harishon shebishel haya mechumetz mishamrei sheichar. It's a catalyst of a catalyst. In other words, how did you make your honey? You cooked your honey and you used as a catalyst for your original honey, you used beer. Then you boiled this beer, this honey all year. In other words, you have a catalyst which you used to create something. You have a chometz catalyst which you use to create something. You then take that something, a little bit left of that second thing, number 2, and you use it as a catalyst for a new product, number 3. And then it goes on to number 4, number 5. You with me? Each time, if you go back, and by the way, in case you think this is a joke, we're going to talk about sourdough. Not today, but we're going to get to sourdough. And there are companies that have sourdough, that the sourdough is 80 years old. And it was started off by grape juice by my grandfather in Poland, etc. We're going to see. These are real stories. It's have sourdough. And you keep adding, but you always have possibly, a little bit of the original sourdough. Or do you? Is it be'en? Do we look at it as if it's be'en? Now you see where the lomdas becomes relevant. And you keep using this as a catalyst for a starter for something else. And then for something else. And does it go on forever or not? This is the nekuda.
Is there a maskanada that's...
We'll see. Well, let's see. Let's do this again. Okay. Let's go back. So now I'll read it straight through, because I stopped in the middle. Go back to the little ois mem. Go back to the little ois mem in the Mishnah Berurah, yeah? Shekol Davar Hama'amid Ari Choshev Ke'ilu Hu Be'en Mamash Ulefichach Meidvash HaKorin Mead Shehechmitzu B'shmorei Dvash Shebishel Kol Hashana. You made it, you fermented it using the dregs, shmorim, use the dregs of a dvash Shebishel Kol Hashana, but udvash harishon Shebishel Haya Mechumetz Mishichrei Mishimrei Sheichar. My original honey was made using the dregs of a byproduct of beer. But the mead that I'm making now is Reviyoi Chamishi. V'chein lo'olam. Chayav leva'er afilu meidvash ha'acharoin. You've got to get rid of biur chometz. Yes? Says the Mishnah Berurah. You've got to get rid of it. You've got to do biur chometz on it, even though it's the 77th one, and the original one was fermented via the dregs of beer. That's still called bal yaroyet. You've got to get rid of it. Okay, admittedly midrabanan. Like, okay, fine, Davar Hama'amid is midrabanan, but still you've got to get rid of it. V'chein la'olam chayv levayer afilu meidvash ha'achron shekol echad mehen al yedei Hama'amid na'asa kuloi chometz. It all becomes chometz. We view it, back to that phrase, we view it as if it is be'en. We view it as if it is still here. It clearly isn't. But included in the halacha of Davar Hama'amid afilu be'elef le'batel is included down to this point. Absolutely fascinating. Ubazeh, and then here the Mishnah Berurah adds something really interesting. Ubazeh ein lahokei lishtois afilu b'yomtev achron shel Pesach. There are things. It's not really today's topic, but it's worthwhile noting. There are things that potentially on the very last day of Pesach, on Shmini, not Shvi, not in Eretz Yisrael, but Acharon Shal Pesach, which is only itself midrabanan, there is potentially room to be more makel on some things which are themselves only a chumrah, etc., etc. I mean, we don't eat kitnius on Shmini, right? We treat it as Yom Tov, but something which is only a chumrah, there are things you could be makel, But this not. Says the Mishnah Berurah, not. Ubezeh ein lahokel lishtois afilu b'yomtav achron shel Pesach rak ba'oisoi made she'ein boi chashash zeh.
Yeah.
You cannot drink this mead, which is the 77th one, of one which was originally fermented using the dregs of beer. Not even an achron, says the Mishnah Berurah. I'll tell you what, I'm very magnanimous, says the Mishnah Berurah. I'm really liberal. I'll be makel one thing for you, says the Mishnah Berurah. I'll tell you what you can be makel. Rak shenizbashel b'kli chometz yesh mekilin b'yom tov achron l'shtoisoi mita'am distam kelim einam b'nei yoman. But maybe what you could be makel is if it was not made with beer, but it was cooked in a keli of chometz. Yesh mekilin on the Shmini shel Pesach because stam kelim einam b'nei yoman. Brackets. Ochem b'mkoma is shemavashlin amid b'chol hashana b'yoros shemavashlin b'yayin sorof. Okay, that's another story. Let's leave that out. That's complicating it. It might become a davar chorif. Leave that out. Go after the little brackets to where it says mem dalad. V'chol zeh. Hama'amid made mid harishon hu amad b'shimrei sheichar levad. That's only if the only catalyst that fermented the beer, the original one, was the dregs of beer. Leave out the brackets. Aval im b'shimrei sheichar bilvad. Aval im b'shimrei sheichar bilvad lo yhodai laha'amidai. But if, here we come to zev zegoyim, but if the dregs of beer that you used for the original one would not have fermented it on its own, but you included another ingredient in it which isn't chometz, and only together they congealed, then you can drink it on Pesach, even if there is shishim. If there is shishim, keneged the shimrei hashecha, because that's zev zegoyrem, and that would be okay. Okay? One more. So, there we have another case, another iteration of Hama'amid in the Shulchan Aruch. Okay? Being Hama'amid Gvinos with that yeast that came from Shecha. One more thing, please. Let's go to Mishnah Berurah Chavav, because this is also relevant. B'chala, oy b'yayin sorof hanas, dot. Im Hama'amid. You got it? Mishnah Berurah Chavav, a line in. Dot. Im Hama'amid hagvina al yedei keva. You were mamid a gvina with rennet. Vehi nichbash tchila b'chli chometz me'eis le'eis. And that then stayed, and it had kovush, and it was in the keli chometz me'eis le'eis. Osur la'oichla. You can't eat it. Umutal hashoisa, but you can own it. You can't eat it. So with the kovush in a keli chometz, we're not going to allow you now to eat it, but you don't have to get rid of it. V'ayin bachreinim, let me just finish this point, sorry. V'ayin bachreinim, this is what you want to point out. Shemet tzadadim, if the hamoda was done before Pesach, then according to many poskim, chometz before Pesach, it has a din of hetera. It's hetera bala. V'ayin bachreinim, shemet tzadadim, dima oimed, hu amad koidem Pesach, ein less so rakim lo yahya begvina shishim neged akeva ubepesach the isur b'mashois b'chal gavna. So that will depend on the if the kivush was done before Pesach, because at the time it was heta, then you could possibly even eat it on Pesach. Okay.
Possibly, since I was in Israel, I noticed that now. I guess there's this Erev Pesach, all the cheese products they say. What they said exactly what's like a Erev Pesach term. I have to look it up again.
Okay, I'm not sure. What are you
I
referring
was
to?
wondering if that had to do with that.
I'm not. Well, you found. Tell me what you're referring to.
Cheeses and stuff like this.
I mean, what they were made from?
Not only it says kosher the Pesach, but it says Erev Pesach something.
I'm not familiar with that, but find out. Let me know.
Another question about the last line of Mr. Berurah.
Yeah.
Didn't we say in the Shach that it might be a Pesach thing, but Davar Hama'amid is only a problem when it's machmas atzma, and if it's just got boiled in a chometz kli, it's a blios and not machmas atzma. Maybe that's a Pesach thing, not a Davar Hama'amid thing.
But no, but that's kovush. This has got nothing to do with You mamid the gvina with a keva which was nichbash in a kli chomet, so it would. That's not a mamid issue. That's a pesach. That's a pesach halacha. Yeah. We don't. I mean, we don't. Do you cook in chometz kelim on Pesach? No.
is like similar to bishul in some aspects.
Yes. Yeah. Kavush kimevushal. Correct.
Together with the mamid, like of course we don't do bishul, but even if.
But forget mamid. Forget mamid. It's because of. It is a Pesach thing.
As you said, it was like
correct.
80 times reusing, and the first beginning might have been.
That was that's because it's a chometz thing.
Right, but
and chometz is.
Then it would be fine.
But we're talking he's talking on Pesach. This is Hilchos Pesach. This is Hilchos Pesach. What we're learning now. But he's showing that you mamid gevinos with sheichar, which is chometz. So it's a mamid. So I feel about elef bottle. That's what mamid is. Chometz is also machmas atzmai. Chometz is also machmas atzmai. And therefore, even if it, and because the lomdus here is that because we view it as being be'en, therefore even if it keeps going to another starter, even though the tam is long gone, but it doesn't matter because correct. Now, what would be right?
But even outside of Pesach, no? The Mamid would have this criteria
this is where it becomes interesting. You know what? That leads us actually very nicely, onto our final source for today, which is Taz in Yeridea Kuf Tesvav Sivkot Yudalad, top right-hand side of the last page. Yes. Hilchos Machole Akum. And the Taz quotes a Beis Yosef. And here we're talking about yogurt. Okay? And we'll discuss yogurt further. Says the Taz. Taz Yudalad in... Yeah, you got it? Kosav Beis Yosef. Go line in the middle of that line. Kosav Beis Yosef Soif Siman Zeh. Kosav Beis Yosef Soif Siman Zeh. Misha Ovar Ve'emid Cholov B'cheli Chomutz Shel Goy V'lokach Cholov Zeh. Somebody was Ma'amid Cholov Ve'emid Cholov B'cholov Chomutz Shel Goy V'lokach Cholov Zeh Ve'emid Boy Acher U'meha Acher Shemutar Likach Cholov Shlishi Zeh Ulahamid Boy Cholov Ula'oichloi Dela'acha Shloish Pa'omim Kvakola Cholov Shel Goy. After 3 times yogurt, it becomes okay. And this, we will stop here for today. Tomorrow we'll start and explain this. You see this?
So we see outside of Pesach it's made.
Right. And we need to understand that and how we're going to apply that.
Interesting.
Yeah? That's a Beis Yosef. That's a good start.